A single crack shatters the thick jungle hush. The echo rips through my eardrums, and I freeze, every fiber of me straining against the night's oppressive stillness. Sweat beads on the back of my neck, drips from the brim of my M1 helmet, and I taste iron on my tongue. Vietnam, Quang Tri Province, April 12th, 1969. Somewhere north of the Qa Viet River, deep inside the safety lines of my patrol, but as far from safety as a man can be, I am Private First Class Daniel Red Calloway, radio operator for Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 26th Marines. My night vision goggles dangle at my chest, useless in the darkness thicker than a quicklime fog. Ahead, the jungle breathes in low groans, branches swaying without wind, shadows slithering among the banyan roots. My heart hammers against my ribs, too loud, too fast. And I know it isn't just the mortars we heard at dusk or the distant thump of B-52 strikes. There is something else, a whisper. It threads through the cicada's chorus, soft as silk yet impossible to ignore. Red. My name crawls along my spine like a centipede. No radio code, no static, just a voice. Harlan Hawk Reyes. My squadmate, my brother, dead these 3 days now. I can't tell you how I know it's his voice. Maybe it's the half grin tucked in the pause between syllables, or the way it trembles on the last consonant. But I know, Useria Soovento. I look to my left. Corporal Jensen checks his M16 in the wavering beam of our leadman's flashlight. They haven't heard it. They don't know yet that I'm already unarmed. My canteen shaking in my grip. I should call it in. I should keep my position. Stay in formation. Standard night patrol routine. 2-meter intervals. Man on point. Radio watch at 12-hour shifts. Hell, I've run that routine a dozen times this month. But protocol crumbles in my mind. Another crack. This time closer, maybe 50 meters due east, and the whisper floats again. Red! No question, no plea, a beckon. My breath hitches. The jungle floor shifts beneath a blanket of leaves that crackle underfoot. Each step forward feels like trespassing on sacred ground. O seria so ovento. I vanish into the undergrowth before my own reflexes can register the betrayal. The world narrows to the syllable of my name and the distant glow of phosphorescent moss on a fallen log. I slip past Corporal Jensen's light, past the radio operator's slumped shoulders, until I am swallowed by the green abyss. Rainwater drips from overhead foliage, plinking onto my shoulder pads in a rhythm that matches my pulse. I can taste the humidity, thick, sour, and feel sweat pooling along my spine. The smell of damp earth and rotting leaves fills my nostrils, mixed with the acrid tang of cordite from yesterday's firefight. Every sense jangles like loose wire. And then I hear it, the soft scrape of a body moving ahead. I raise my Colt, 45, chamber snagging with a click that sounds too loud. My finger curls at the trigger guard. For a moment I can't decide whether to fire or to speak. Hawk! The name catches like a thorn on my lips. Silence follows, heavier than any artillery barrage. Then, through the thick tangle of vines and ferns, I glimpse a shape, lean, familiar in its crooked stance. He stands just beyond the reach of my flashlight's beam, only his outline visible. Broad shoulders, the tilt of his helmet, the length of his packstrap against his chest. And before I can question my eyes, the figure vanishes deeper into the brush. I swallow the bile rising in my throat and push after him. Part of me screams to turn back, but I'm already past that line. Bravo Company's yellow and black markers lie 100 meters behind me, flickering like warning lanterns. Ahead lies only darkness and a whisper I cannot unhear. Memories claw up from the deep. Hawk's gravelly laugh as he tossed his last cigarette away, the way he'd cover my 6 in Pagoda Fields, his eyes constantly scanning overhead for enemy movement. I can still feel the warmth of his shoulder against mine on patrol, the steady reassurance of his presence. That was before the ambush. We were clearing a ridge line at dawn when the NVA opened up with AK-47 fire. I was pinned by a sapper's grenade blast. He dragged me out even as he bled. 3 days ago, we lowered him into a shallow grave marked only by a spray-painted plank. I helped carry the shovelfuls of earth. Now I'm chasing his ghost. Branches whip my face. My boots slide in mud. The jungle seems to pulse, alive with unseen eyes. Somewhere overhead, a hornbill cries as if mocking my foolish pursuit. I wonder if they hear the whisper too, if the very trees recoil at the sound of my friend's voice, calling me deeper. Then the whisper comes again, so close I swear it's right behind me. Red, useria so ventu. I pivot. 45 raised, catching the glint of moonlight on a blade. No, on a raindrop hanging from a slender vine. The whisper dissolves into the rain's steady beat. My chest tightens. I press both palms to my ears, trying to block out the sound. But memory is a trickster. It drags me back to that final night in the lulls when Hawk and I lay side by side, sharing a pack of sea rat crackers. I remember his tired eyes, the way he said, "Don't let me die out here, Calloway." Half joking, I hadn't understood how literal those words would become. A sudden rustle to my right jolts me upright. My finger squeezes the trigger. I fire. The roar of the shot fractures the silence, makes everything echo. The beam of my flashlight whirls upward, catching flickers of movement, a startled civet cat, a cloud of frightened bats, a shattered branch tumbling into the ferns. No, man. I lower the pistol, knees shaking. My earplugs are wadded up in my pocket. No way I'd hear anything on purpose. But still, I feel the weight of Hawk's gaze. I blink, and for a heartbeat, the world shifts. Grass glowing with phosphor, tree trunks breathing faint bluish light. The jungle's hidden radiance revealed like a memory of war. I bend to touch the mud, half expecting to find footprints. My hand sinks into the soft earth. I taste it, soil and rot and something stale, like old blood. I jerk my hand back. The whisper drowned by the shot is gone. Only the rain and the jungle's slow, patient pulse remain. I should go back. I should find Bravo Company's periphery, call in a circle check, get someone else to track whatever phantom I just shot at. Standard procedure, but I can't. The whisper has a hold on me like a coiling vine tightening my heart. I can't breathe until I know what it wants. I straighten. Forge ahead. The undergrowth parts for me as if I'm part of the forest now. My boots press into moss, splatter leaves overhead. My Colt whines in its holster, but I don't feel the weight. My radio sits dormant on my hip, a dead whale strapped to my side. I can't bring myself to switch it on. Something ahead glints in the moonlight, steel or bone. I crouch, slide forward on palms and knees, hands clawing through ferns. I find a mangled canteen, its lid still chained to the mouth. I recognize the dented S-canteen, it's Hawk's. I'd polished it for him back at Los Fuller 2 rotations ago. My fingers tremble as I unscrew the cap. Empty, my breath catches. I raise the canteen to my lips. I'm thirsty, my throat is raw. But instead of water, the canteen smells of damp earth and something fouler. I close it with a snap. The whisper returns, so near I can't distinguish whether it's inside my skull or slithering through the leaves. Red, Osiria sol vent. I exhale, I push away the fear. I stand, I press forward into the dark, stepping over roots, past the broken shell of a fallen soldier's helmet. Past the soft indentations of shallow graves I never saw before. No turning back now. The whisper is my compass. And I follow it, with every ounce of dread and longing in my bones, into the forest's heart. I shouldn't have chased the whisper. Every instinct screamed to reel back in, to slip quietly to the flank and radio for a regroup. But when that voice, Hawk's voice, found me, there was no turning back. I followed the sound into the belly of the Quang Tri night, each step a betrayal of my squad and the orders that kept me alive. My boots sank into damp leaf mold as I slipped past our point man's cluster of glow sticks. The yellow markers glowed like warning beacons, braided along our patrol lane every 20 meters. Beyond them lay unknown danger, booby traps, concealed sappers, snipers waiting in tangled foliage. But I stepped over that line as though it were no more than chalk on a wall. The whisper pulled me forward, soft, urgent, impossible to resist. Red, o seria sol vento. The syllable hung on the humid air like a prayer. I sniffed, tasted rain on my lips. The radio mic felt heavier by the second, silent wires straining against the mound of guilt settling inside my chest. Bravo Company would notice my absence. Corporal Jensen knew my radio schedule better than he knew his own heartbeat. He would trigger the prearranged rally. 3 sharp blasts on the whistle, a ceasefire whistle, man down, then a sick green flare overhead. Rescue teams would comb the tree line in a skimmer pattern. But none of that mattered, not when Hawk, my brother, was calling me. Moonlight sifted through palm fronds, painting the jungle floor in shifting pools of silver. I pressed forward, boots slipping on exposed roots, heart cracking beneath the weight of every fallen friend. I replayed the way we'd laughed stupidly at campfire stories, Hawk's gravelly chuckle the loudest, and how we'd carved our initials into jungle trees to mark our passage. I thought, maybe I'd misheard. Maybe the whisper was the wind, a branch scraping in the darkness. But guilt has a way of twisting reality. I knew the crack of his voice as surely as I know my own. Branches snagged my gear. The web of vines tangled around my radio antenna, dragging it down until it rubbed against the mud. I caught sight of my reflection in a puddle. Eyes wild, uniform streaked with grime, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my Colt. 45. I shook off the tremor, forced my jaw to lock, my lungs to steady. I breathed in the rotten, sweet smell of decay that hummed through the swampy undergrowth. My senses snapped to life. The flash of a cobra's tongue, the hiss of leeches writhing on my sleeves, the thud of my own heartbeat in my ears. Beneath it all, Hawk's whisper beckoned me deeper still. Red. U seria so o vento. Every nerve ending sparked. I climbed over a mossy log, slid down the other side into ankle-deep mud that sucked at my boots. My flashlight lay useless in my pack. I didn't dare switch it on. Light draws eyes in this jungle, enemy or friend, it doesn't care. So I trusted the moon and my hearing alone. I leaned into the direction of the voice, my rifle slung low, finger hovering just outside the trigger guard. If it was an NVA patrol playing tricks, they'd be waiting to ambush the fool who followed phantom calls. But the way the whisper quivered with something like care, it couldn't be the enemy. A faint glow drifted ahead, phosphorescent mold growing on the bark of a fallen tree. It glowed sickly green, illuminating the hollow of a termite mound with an otherworldly light. I crouched behind the stump, muscles coiled, and peered around. No movement, only the rustling of leaves, the distant chorus of frogs. Another heartbeat, and I stood, sliding forward. That's when I heard the radio, Jensen's frantic whispers bleeding through static. "Calloway, status. Calloway, report." His voice snapped me back. "I hit the pit. This is Red. I'm Useria so vento." The whisper cut the transmission short. Static crackled. The forest pressed in. I killed the call and dropped the mic. I could risk it, relay my position, call for extraction. Typical procedure, but I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I understood what Hawk wanted me to find. My mind replayed the ambush that buried him. April 9th at dawn, winding through a ridgeline thick with elephant grass. The NVA opened up from 3 sides, AK-47 tracers arcing like malevolent fireflies. Mortars thudded into the flank, hurling shards of earth and flesh skyward. Hawk dove on me just as the sapper's grenade detonated. My ears rang, ears stuffed tight with fear and serum tape. When I came to, I was sitting against a coconut palm, blood pooling under my leg. He was gone. 3 days later, we laid him to rest under a hand-painted plank scrawled Reyes H, 3667112489. Now, in the marrow of the jungle, I heard his voice again, clearer, pleading. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than grief. It was purpose. I pressed my back to a weathered tree trunk, fingers tracing the grooves carved into the bark. Old Viet Minh glyphs, cursed warnings carved years before bullets and flame tore through this province. I stared at the markings and wondered if they held answers. The whisper rose again, drifting like a firefly toward a narrow deer trail. I followed the path of broken ferns and fresh footprints. The tracks were faint, boot treads pressed into soft earth, rabbit-sized depressions not more than 20 paces apart. Too small for a squad, too deliberate, maybe scouts, maybe sappers guiding something or someone through the darkness. Fear prickled my skin. I fingered the stock of my M16, its sling chafing my shoulder. Fear told me to call it in. Logic said I was out of my depth, but emotion, raw, jagged emotion, propelled me onward. In the hush before dawn, the jungle seems alive with the weight of history. Mosquitoes hummed in my ear, geckos clung to tree trunks like living hieroglyphs. Each breath tasted of rot and rain. I found myself murmuring under my breath, "Hawk, what do you want me to see?" My voice wobbled on the edge of a confession I couldn't let anyone hear. Then I saw it, a rank of half-buried shells, the brass casings tarnished by moisture, M26 practice rounds stacked in the dirt like grisly totems. I knelt, brushing away leaves. Each shell glowed faintly in the moonlight. Someone had been here, preparing an ambush or burying evidence, something only meant for clandestine eyes. I ran my thumb along the groove of a casing. The same one Hawk dropped into the muck as he crawled back to me 3 days ago. My blood froze. Red. Osidius O Ventu. The whisper wasn't ahead anymore. It was behind me, soft, urgent, a finger tapping on my shoulder. My spine buckled. I spun, rifle jutting out, and my flashlight swung to life in one smooth motion. A glimmer of metal caught in a puddle of mud. A sergeant's dog tag. Harlan Reyes. I recognized the scuff of the name, the half-erased serial number. I scooped it up, heart hammering. Under the puddle's oily sheen, I saw another form, indistinct, half-buried beneath a layer of mud and leaves. I dropped to my knees, shovel blades at the ready, though I carried no shovel. My hands scraped at the earth, tearing clumps of mud, uncovering the shape of a steel helmet. Beneath it, a bone-white skull. I froze. Another American soldier. A recon team ambushed. An unsanctioned burial. The whisper curled around me, beckoning, urging. I snapped the flashlight off and pressed my face near the skeleton. The dog tag lay clasped between ribs, still warm. Impossible, but I swear I felt warmth. I stood and shouldered my rifle, sliding the dog tag into my pocket. My fingers closed over it like a promise. Something had happened here. Something they didn't want anyone to find. The map tucked in Hawk's breast pocket. The photograph of Hawk with an unfamiliar officer. It all began here, in this silent grove of graves. My helmet drooped in my hand as the first hint of dawn streaked the sky. Pink and orange light hinted at horizons beyond the trees. I knew I had broken protocol. I had abandoned my patrol and discovered evidence of a cover-up. I should call it in. I should run back, screaming for a medevac or a rescue team, but the whisper hammered in my mind. Find the truth. So I slung my rifle across my back, secured Hawk's dog tag at my collarbone, and stood. The world before me cracked open, revealing secrets buried in clay and mangrove roots. I swallowed hard, testing the air. The jungle had shifted, its breath held, waiting for my next move. I turned back the way I came, stepping off the deer trail, into the haze of dawn. Bravo Company's glow sticks would burn through the undergrowth soon, casting false comfort on the ground. But I no longer belonged in their circle. My path diverged here, away from orders, away from safety, and straight into the secrets that Hawk's whisper had led me to uncover. I took the first step back. The whisper fell silent as the sun rose, and in the silence I felt its weight, heavy as guilt, sharp as a blade. Ahead lay camp. Extraction, punishment, and betrayal, but the truth, Hawk's truth, lay buried in that grove, and I would bring it to light no matter the cost. I pressed forward under the canopy's cathedral of leaves, each step a soft thud in a world gone holy and haunted. My boots sink into the loam, warm, damp, pulsing with the echo of every life that has breathed here. The whisper that lured me still reverberates through my bones, a tremor I can't escape. Every rustle of a vine, every drip of condensation, every distant thunk of falling fruit sounds like Hawk calling me onward. Thunder rumbles in the distance. Or maybe it's the echo of artillery rolling off the DMZ, our own B-52s, laying waste to rice paddies a few clicks north. The sky deepens to bruised violet, streaked with flashes of lightning. Rain begins to sift through the canopy in nervous threads, prickling my skin under the sweat-soaked camo. I lean into the storm, let the droplets sluice grime from my face, but not guilt, that clings like oil. I glance at the dog tag swinging at my chest. Harlan Hawk Reyes, stamped in steel, still warm against my heart. I feel his presence like a weight and a buoy. It drags me deeper, but also keeps me afloat in this river of dread. Ahead, tangled roots rise like bony spines, forcing me to stoop. My M16's barrel scraping damp wood. The hiss of my exhale sounds loud in my ears. Each breath tastes of decay and cordite, of blood spilt and secrets buried. A sudden crack to my right makes me spin, rifle up, heart ricocheting off ribs. My flashlight beam slices through the dark, a darting mongoose slipping past a black gaping hole in the earth. I lower my weapon, throat raw. The line between friend and foe blurs in these green shadows. Vietnamese civilians sometimes fled into the forest, half-starved by carpet bombs. Sometimes took up arms with the NVA. And here I am chasing the ghost of a dead Marine. My mind wanders, as it always does, to the first time I saw Hawk laugh. Els Fuller, 3 months ago. We had traded shifts on guard duty. I nursed hot coffee in a tin cup, and he leaned against the perimeter wire. Bryce Canyon on PX Supply, telling me about the creek he'd fished back home in Utah. He laughed, head tipped back, that full-throated laugh that shook his helmet. I remember the warmth of it, a beacon against the jungle's rancor. Now that laugh reverberates in my mind, a cruel echo. Hawk died holding me up as mortar shrapnel riddled our position. He died trying to save me. Am I chasing redemption or leading myself to ruin? I step into a clearing where moonlight slants through the foliage like spectral fingers. The air shifts, cooler, charged. My boots splash through a shallow pool. Ripples distort a fractured reflection in the water's sheen. I see not just my gaunt face, but the face of the boy I was before the draft, 16. Cradle sniper's dream, shooting hoops under summer sun, dreaming of college. That boy died when I swaddled my rifle at Paris Island. I scramble forward, adrenaline quickening. My ears ring with phantom mortar impacts. Snap, crackle, pop. Though the rain is the only percussion, I sense movement. Something ahead slipping through the mist. A shadow that resolves itself into a line of foxholes carved into the earth, their edges shored up with sandbags and dead branches. Some are half filled with rainwater, others hold the shattered remnants of sea rations tins. I crouch behind a charred log, breath catching. The earth around these pits bears footprints, boot prints, Vietnamese rubber sandals, scorched soil where flares burned. Whoever dug these, they meant to hide something or someone. Guilt gags me at the thought that someone here suffered alone. Uncounted, I feel the forest shift, a living thing recoiling, unsettled by my intrusion. The whisper comes again, insistent, red, and suddenly I understand. This isn't just Hawk calling. It's every brother we've lost whispering through the trees, urging me to dig, to remember, to bear witness. My hands shake as I grip the edge of the first foxhole. Rain mixes with sweat on my brow. Thunder rumbles. I peer into the murky water inside. Something glints beneath the surface. Metal, maybe another helmet, maybe dog tags. I lean forward, mud sucking at my elbows, and cup my hands. Useria so ventu. I drag out a soaked, mangled helmet, the olive drab shell cracked where a bullet must have struck. Underneath, a damp mass of cloth, removing layers of soaked bandages, reveals a faded name embroidered inside. Reyes. My chest seizes. It's Hawk's helmet. I jerk back, heart hammering. The damned thing that died with him 3 days ago is here, buried again in a place I've never been. It's impossible. My rational mind staggers. Footsteps crack behind me, a gentle crunch, as if someone tiptoes on old bones. I whirl, rifle leveled, but catch only the silhouette of branches blowing in the wind. I exhale, furious that I am at the mercy of phantoms. I want to shout, to curse the jungle for its trickery. Up close, Fox Company's markings, 326, have been crudely scraped off the helmet rim. Someone scrubbed away proof, covered tracks. Was it the NVA after they overran a firebase? Or was it us, covering our own mistakes? I stand, rainwater lashing my face, and push my fingers into the dirt. I begin to dig with hands alone, ripping at roots, uncurling vines. Each shovelful of mud yields fragments. The broken shell of an M67 grenade, a tattered photograph submerged in clay, Hawk standing beside an officer I don't recognize. Uniform crisp, smiles for the camera. I wipe it on my sleeve. The officer's face is half darkened by mud, half obscured by a faint official stamp on the back reading "Confidential, Eyes Only." Under that, scrawled in cramped handwriting, "Operation Silver Fern." My pulse bleeds into a frantic drumming. Silver Fern, no marine operation I've ever heard of. The fern is New Zealand's emblem. Kiwis fought alongside us in Nam, but why seal it here? Why bury it with a dead marine? I blink, vision blurring. My chest pounds like a war drum. A new memory crashes in, Hawk and I in the mess tent. He reads me a note he found taped to an HQ wall. A mission briefing classified "Zebra Top Secret." He joked about sneak operations that sounded like spy novels. No mention on the evening news. "If they catch us, they'll kill us twice," he said, voice low. I laughed it off, but I knew the war had deeper veins than any of us saw. Maybe this is one of those veins. The rain stops as suddenly as it began, and the forest holds its breath. The weight of what I've uncovered crushes me. Operation Silver Fern, a clandestine push behind enemy lines to intercept Envy command and control. A mission gone dark. The men assigned. The men unaccounted for. Graves unmarked. Classified as missing in action, but in truth buried in secret, never accorded the honors of war. My head swims. I realize I'm shaking so hard my rifle barrel sings against my chest. I slap at the mud on my hands, raise the photo to my eyes. In Hawk's grin there is triumph, eagerness, a man proud to serve, proud to belong to something greater. And in the officer's pressed uniform, I see the machinery of cover-up, ink stamps, rubber seals, official lies. In that moment, my resolve fractures and reforges. I can feel the forest press in, urging me, "Tell their names. Show these ghosts the light." But the price? If I carry this out, I'll be branded a deserter, court-martialed, maybe executed for treason. I taste iron on my tongue, not from blood, but from adrenaline and fear. I shove the photo into my breast pocket, dog tag nestled beside it. The rain-soaked helmet I wrap in a poncho and sling across my back. I stand, back aching, knees muddy. I realize I haven't heard the whisper for several heartbeats. Maybe I'm alone here, or maybe the forest finally paused its chorus to listen. The jungle stirs as though breathing again. Cicadas resume their shrill hymns. A lone hornbill cries overhead, its call echoing like a question. "What now, Private Calloway?" I catch my reflection in a droplet clinging to a spiderweb, eyes hollowed, face streaked, hands trembling. But I also see a spark in those eyes, a flame lit by the truth I've unearthed. I take a deep breath, taste the residue of rain and fuel and mud, taste history unraveling under my nails. I know the rest of Bravo Company will be searching for me soon. Whistles, flares, bloodhounds maybe, medevac choppers slicing through dawn's mist. They'll find my tracks, maybe my footprints in the muck. They'll follow and discover the shallow graves, the helmet, the photo, and when they do, they'll know more than I ever dared speak. Or I can vanish into this jungle, carry the proof out on my own terms, bear witness in whispers and pages and reports that can't be silenced. Hawk's laughter echoes in my mind, mixing with the crack of gunfire and the hiss of mortar fire. I can almost see him waving, beckoning, urging me on. I wipe mud from my brow, square my shoulders, and step away from the foxholes. Behind me, the earth seals itself. Roots reweave, leaves drift back into place, as if I never meddled. Ahead, the path back to safety awaits, tangled but passable. My rifle is heavy on my shoulder. My heart is heavier. But I walk on, each step a pledge. I will carry their story out of this forest. I will unearth every secret they buried in secrecy. And I will give them a voice louder than any whisper. With that promise burning in my chest, I vanish into the green beyond, footsteps swallowed, and in the hush that follows, the forest knows its truth is no longer safe. Rain pounded the jungle roof now in earnest. drumming like artillery on the heavy canopy overhead. My shoulders hunched against the deluge as I pressed on, mind blazing with the last fragments of what I'd uncovered. Silver fern, buried graves, hawk's dog-tag cold against my chest. Each footfall squelched in the mud, the earth sucking at my boots as though it wanted to trap me here, to drown me in its dark secrets. I nearly didn't hear the radio at first, its shrill crackle swallowed by thunder. But then Jensen's voice cut through the storm, frantic and distant. "Calloway, Calloway, do you copy? I say again, man down, Rally Point Charlie, Mayday over." My chest seized. I fumbled with the PT switch, drenched fingers slipping, and pressed it to my lips. "This is red," I rasped. I'm in the northeast quadrant, 5 mics from LZ Fuller. Something's..." Walker, our youngest radio operator, the kid from Pittsburgh who traded jokes for soap bars at breakfast, used to start the day with a cheerful, "What's crackin', Red?" followed by a wide grin. Static shredded my words. Then Jensen's voice, panicked, almost pleading, "You hearing this? We've got Walker hit. He's bleeding out. I froze. Walker, Tommy Walker, our radio man and 2 young kid from Pittsburgh. His laughter used to slice through the jungle's suffocating hush. "What's crackin', Red?" he'd say every morning as he swapped chow rations for a bar of soap from me. He was always brimming with jokes, hiding his fear with gags. I pictured him slumped against a fallen log, blood spreading into the moss like ink. My heart clattered, and I watched the radio slip from my grasp. It hit the mud with a wet thud, sputtering sparks that died in a hiss. A sob rose in my throat, fierce and raw. Anger at the rain, at the war, at the radio that could bring bad news faster than a bullet. I pivoted, intent on sprinting back to Charlie, to the yellow glow sticks and the medevac choppers overhead. But something stopped me. Hawk's whisper, distant now, wavered in my mind. "Find the truth." I swallowed the sob, bone dry. If I ran back now, I would be no different from any shell-shocked Marine chasing ghosts, avoiding the burden of what I'd discovered and the truth I held, the blood-stained map, the photograph stamped "eyes only." The knowledge that men had died here twice over would vanish into silence. Walker's death would be recorded as another casualty, Hawk's as another Maya. The graves would stay forgotten. I set my jaw. The radio lay half buried in mud, a lifeline I snapped off. I would not let it pull me back before my task was done. I stood, rain sliding off my hair, soaking into my uniform, and forced my legs to stride toward the clearing where I'd found the graves. My boots sank ankle deep. Each step felt like wading through eternity. When I returned, the foxholes lay half-filled with water, the shattered helmet gone, replaced by a fresh spray of disturbed mud. My evidence had been moved. A low flame of dread kindled in my gut. Someone else had been here during the storm, someone who wanted those secrets buried again. My hands trembled as I knelt at the edge of the nearest pit. Rainwater sluiced through my fingers, carving rivulets in the soft earth. I pressed a palm to the side. Feeling for the grooves where I dug, my fingers found only fresh mud, no fragments of photo, no shards of shell. My breath hitched, the world seemed to close in, vines dripped around me, the thunder rolled beyond the trees, and the whisper fell silent, leaving me alone. Then came another sound. Footsteps, careful and deliberate, muffled in the thick rain. I snapped my head up, heart hammering. A shadow retreated behind a termite mound. I scrambled back, rainwater sluicing into my collar. Rifle up in a flash, I leveled it at the shifting shape. "Show yourself!" I barked, voice cracking. A man stepped into view, tall, helmet slung at his side, face ghost pale in the stormlight. His uniform bore no insignia, even his webgear was plain, unmarked. He did not raise his hands. Instead, he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small, leather-bound notebook. He flipped it open with wet, deliberate fingers and held it out. I didn't recognize the handwriting scrawled across the first page. C. Milton. Below, a list of coordinates and dates, some matching the shallow graves, some newer, uncatalogued. My pulse thundered in my ears as thunder cracked overhead. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, gravelly. "I shouldn't," I gritted. "Neither should you, mister. Who the hell are you?" Sanders appeared in briefings like a shadow among intelligence officers. Sunken eyes, no insignia, emotionless. He always scribbled notes but never said a word. A mystery among the ranks. He dropped the notebook at the edge of the pit. His boots almost disappearing into the mud as he knelt. He rifled through another pocket. A badge? No, just a dog tag. He tapped the face. Navy? Lieutenant Commander Sanders. My world tipped. Navy, not Marines. Intelligence? SIR. Special Intelligence Recon. I swallowed. You're the reason they buried the bodies here? You're the reason Hawk's death was hidden. Sanders's jaw tightened. He glanced at the sky, rain dripping from his brow. Hawk died because his unit walked into a compromised operation. Silver Fern was a joint recon. Marines, Kiwis, and a handful of sailors embedded to gather intel. The handoff failed. The NVA clawed them under the radar. High Command decided to classify the mission. We had orders to recover sensitive material, not bodies. They were liabilities. I slammed a fist into the dirt, mud spattering my cheek. They're human liabilities. Rage cracked in my voice. You left them here to rot. Sanders didn't flinch. He shook his head. We followed protocol. Exposure would compromise troop morale, domestic support. The war needed victories more than inconvenient truths. Lightning split the sky and thunder rattled the leaves overhead. I closed my eyes against the storm. Memories of Hawk's grin, the warmth of his laugh, his last words pressed against my eardrum. Don't let me die out here, Calloway. I'd failed him once. I would not fail him twice. With shaking hands, I grabbed the notebook and dog tag. The pages were sodden, ink bleeding, but I cradled them like sacred relics. Sanders rose, face impassive, and took a step back. Respect or resignation, I couldn't tell. He turned and vanished into the trees, leaving me alone in the pit of tombs. Huxton, the lieutenant with a fixed gaze and calm command voice, had earned our respect from day one at LZ Fuller. He was the kind of leader who didn't need to shout to be followed. I sank to my knees, rain plastering my hair to my skull. The notebook opened to a page where I found a name, Lieutenant James Jimmy Huxton. Mia since March '69. Below, 4 more names with asterisks: PVT, Nguyen, Skate, Roberts, CPL, Simmons, each marked expired. My chest tightened. Hundreds of family graves back home. Each headstone a testimony to a life ripped away. And now this secret registry of the truly forgotten. Tears blurred the edge of my vision. The rain indistinguishable from the grief coursing through my veins. I pressed the notebook to my chest, dog tag cold against my skin, and let myself collapse. The rain soaked through my uniform, whipped against my face, but it could not wash away the betrayal bleeding from every pore. Lightning flickered, illuminating the clearing, the termite mound, the half-uncovered holes, the churned mud. I dragged myself forward, crawling over roots, retrieving pieces of flotsam, a fragment of silver fern briefing, a blood-stained map corner, the corroded edge of a photo. Each artifact a testament to lives discarded in service of secrecy. I gathered them in a makeshift bundle, knots of mud and rainwater soaking everything through. My hands were numb, body shaking with cold and fury. I pressed my forehead against the edge of the pit, listening to the echo of thunder, my breath stuttering like a dying engine. In that moment, I felt the full weight of loss. Hawk, Walker, all the others. The forest seemed to mourn with me. Cicadas stilled, no birds sang, only the rain and the distant roar of B-52s overhead. I rose, limbs stiff, and stood in the shallow water. The whispered voices of the lost pressed against my mind. Hawk's steady tenor at my side, Walker's crackling laugh, Huxton's silent plea. I raised my face to the sky. Let the rain wash the mud from my cheeks. The sorrow crashed through me, bittersweet, and I let it carry me forward. I would carry their names out of this jungle. I would expose the lies, no matter the cost. Let them call me deserter, traitor, madman. I would not abandon these ghosts again. With the truth clutched to my chest, torn notebook dog tags, fragments of a betrayed mission, I stepped out of the graveyard of secrets. Each step was agony, each breath a promise I would not forget. I would not let them rot in silence. And as the storm began to wane, I felt something tremble within me, like the first spark of dawn after the longest night. I collapsed beside a gargantuan kapok tree, its buttressed roots spiraling like ancient serpents into the mud. My uniform is a sodden weight, saturated with rain and grief. My bones ache from digging, from crawling, from carrying fragments of buried truths. In the savage half-light, I press my back against the trunk and stare at the littered clearing. Mangled helmets, half-filled foxholes, the churned earth where so many died and were forgotten. Above, vines trail down like weeping willow branches, bending under the raindrops that fall in slow, deliberate beads. My hands tremble as I open the leather-bound notebook, Commander Sanders's Registry of the Lost, and run my finger down each name. James Jimmy Huxton, Thomas Walker, Nguyen Van Min, Carlos Simmons Ortega, Robert Roberts Jenkins. 5 souls, 5 burials in unmarked graves, 5 missions erased from the morning news and the sacred lists of the missing in action. I trace the inked asterisks beside their names, ink blurring into the grain of the paper, like blood seeping into canvas. Each name is a ghost, a promise I made in the mud. I would not let you be forgotten. I would carry you with me beyond this jungle's jaws. I close my eyes and let the storm's lullaby wash over me, the distant thunder like drums reverberating under the DMZ, the steady hiss of rainfall on leaves. My breath slows, and for a moment, in that fragile calm, I taste hope beneath the bitterness of betrayal. Memories surface unbidden. Sitting by a makeshift fire at Les Fuller, Hawk and I splitting a can of fruit cocktail, laughing at some blasted lieutenant's awful joke, Walker's jittery grin when he handed me a letter from home, the ink blurred by his tears, even the fleeting kindness of a Vietnamese villager we helped rescue, her eyes luminous with gratitude before she vanished into the paddy fields. Here, in the wet cradle of the kapok's roots, I feel the weight of their trust and the enormity of what I carry. I realize that my fear of being branded a deserter is nothing compared to the silent tombs I've left behind by staying silent. If I slip back into Bravo Company's line, flares and whistles and medevac choppers will sweep me up, treat me as lost equipment, not as a witness. Official reports will list me as Mia until they claim me Kaya or desertion. They'll never know the truth of Silver Fern. They'll never know that men died twice. Once in battle, again in secrecy, I open my eyes, water beading on my lashes, and I see the kapok's bark, scaly, mottled, resilient. I press my palm to it and feel the pulse of life, sap rising, roots drinking deep from the earth. This tree survived storms that would have shattered steel. It stands because it reaches down as fiercely as it reaches up. If it can endure, so can I. If it can carry the scars of seasons and still stand, so can the stories of these men endure, carried out of this forest into the light. I rise to my feet, spine stiff but resolute. I gather my makeshift bundle, the notebook, photo fragments, dog tags, blood-stained map, mangled helmet wrapped in a torn poncho. The rain has slowed to a mist. Dawn's pale purple glow seeps through the canopy. My shadow stretches over the clearing, long and thin, like the line I walk between duty and truth. I pause at the forest's edge, where the green abyss begins to thin. Behind me lie secrets that could unravel careers, tear families apart, ignite outrage back home, and maybe change the course of this war's narrative. Ahead lies the patrol lane, the whine of helicopters, the disciplined world of Bravo Company. I can already hear the whistle blasts calling me to safety, the frantic voices begging for my return. I tuck the notebook into my breast pocket, press the photograph of Hawk and the unknown lieutenant against my heart. I close my fist around the dog tag and taste its cold metal with my tongue. Then I slip my radio mic from its holder, twist it open, and jam it into the mud. I yank free the wires, crush the speaker under my boot. If they want me, they'll send out search parties. They'll chase my footprints to this clearing and find nothing but churned earth and phantom graves. But when they do, they'll know they lost more than a radio operator. They lost their last chance to hide the truth. The decision crystallizes inside me like hardened resin. I will not return to Les Fuller. I will not report in. I will carry these documents, these tokens of sacrifice, out of the jungle via every backwater trail I know. I will cross into friendly lines under cover of darkness, seek out war correspondents. Senators, anyone who will listen. I will testify before courts-martial if necessary. I will bear witness. A blast of gunfire shatters the mist. A distant volley from the DMZ, or perhaps Bravo Company's live-fire exercise. I can't be sure. My heart stutters, but I do not hesitate. I gather my equipment, sling the rifle across my back and step forward into the undergrowth. Each footfall presses against a vow. I will carry you with me. Every rustle of leaves sings your name. Your story will not die in this forest. As I move, I whisper each man's name beneath my breath, forging a litany of memory. Jimmy Huxton, Thomas Walker, Nguyen Van Min, Carlos Ortega, Robert Jenkins, Harlan Reyes. Each syllable a bond, each breath a promise. The jungle closes behind me, the mist thickens, and I walk into the unknown. No longer a soldier bound by orders, but a bearer of truth, a pilgrim for the lost. And as dawn breaks, pale light filtering through emerald leaves, I feel the stirrings of something fierce and unwavering inside me. Purpose reborn from grief. A mission of remembrance more vital than any patrol, more enduring than any mud-soaked foxhole. I will not look back. I will not flinch. The path is unclear, strewn with danger and betrayal, but in my hand I hold proof. In my heart I carry their voices, and in my stride I bear their legacy toward a world that must know. I step into the pale dawn, and the jungle exhales behind me. Moonlight barely threads through the sulphurous haze of the DMs as I crest the ridge above the old French-built road. My lungs burn with every ragged breath, each step higher than the last, the weight of my pack and the stolen evidence dragging at my shoulders like an anchor. Behind me, the jungle's green gloom recedes. Ahead, the ghostly silhouettes of broken bunkers, razor wire, and sandbagged foxholes stretch toward the river that divides friend and foe. Somewhere below, Bravo Company roars with the sounds of a search party. Their whistles, the crack of rifles, the frantic orders I refuse to answer. In my breast pocket, the leather notebook presses against my ribcage, its pages swollen with mud and betrayal. The dog tags rattle softly against the blood-stained map tucked beside them. I taste iron in my mouth and grit my teeth, letting the ache in my calves sharpen into resolve. Dawn is still 2 hours away, but I have no time left. The crossing points along the road are known. Patrols, mines, a single narrow footbridge under enemy guns. It is no place for mercy, only for decisions that cannot be undone. I slide behind a shattered machine gun nest, its tripod corroded, belts of spent brass littering the earth. A rusting sign half buried in gravel reads in fractured French, "Zone interdict, Forbidden Zone." I press my back to the cold steel and lift my rifle to peer across the clearing. A squad of North Vietnamese soldiers stands on the far bank. Silhouettes rigid as statues, 2 meters apart, AK-47s cradled in their arms. Patrol lights sweep the ground in mechanical arcs. My heart hammers. If I step onto the road, they'll see me instantly. If I wade the knee-deep marsh, I risk drowning or drawing fire from the bunkers on their flank. But the truth demands passage. I exhale, tasting the must of damp metal and sweat. I reach inside my pack and withdraw a crumpled sheet of plastic. A rain poncho I'd woven through my sleeves to shield the notebook. I wrap the bundle tight, seal the edges with tape I scavenged from Bravo Company's medical kits. The evidence feels like a living thing, brittle, precious, burning against my chest. I close my eyes and picture Hawk's grin, see Walker's wide-eyed hope, feel the fierce pride in Huxton's stance. They whisper in my mind, their voices merging into a choir. "Get it out, tell them." I slip from cover, sliding on my belly over gravel and wire. The world is a distorted echo, every breath amplified, every heartbeat a sonar ping. I flatten against the cold asphalt when I reach the road's edge, testing the surface with a fingertip. The morning's dew glitters like broken glass. I hear the swish of sandbags being shifted. Bravo Company's flank. They're closing in, scanning for any sign of my betrayal. I push myself upward and break into a crouch, rifle held ready in both hands. The first step is a promise. I will not go back. The second is a prayer. Let me live long enough to speak their names. The third is pure adrenaline, fear fractured into motion. I sprint across the open stretch like a spectre, arms pumping, boots skidding on oil-slick tarmac. 4 heartbeats, and the first AK-47 flares. 3 rounds spit into the night, cutting the air with crackling urgency. I throw myself over the lip of the opposite embankment, taste dust in my mouth, and roll into knee-high water. Guns bark above me, a staccato symphony of betrayal. Bullets rip through reeds, send water droplets arcing into the air. I slosh forward, chest-deep, water pressing cold against my body, each stroke propelling me toward the NVA line. The current tugs me downstream, toward the river proper, and I let it carry me, pushing with one arm, clutching the bundle of secrets against my chest with the other. A shout in Vietnamese echoes across the water. Something harsh, guttural. I kick, thighs burning, till the bank rises out of black water like a tombstone. I haul myself up, collapse on the muddy shore, and crawl into the undergrowth. My uniform is torn, soaked through, my teeth chatter with cold, but the notebook is safe, still pressed to my heart. Through the trees ahead, I glimpse the river, wide, churning lifeblood of this cursed land. I stand shivering and scan for the patrol boats I bribed via a down-and-out river boatman in Quang Tri Town. He promised me 2 hours of dark passage in exchange for my last pack of Sea-Rat coffee. I crouch by the water's edge, trace my fingers along the map's penciled lines. A series of buoys, a hidden eddy, a snag where old pilings breach the surface. There, no lights, no guard, only the promise of escape. A branch snaps behind me. I whirl, rifle raised. But the figure that emerges is not an enemy soldier. It's Sanders, Lieutenant Commander Sanders, his uniform disheveled, face streaked with rain and regret. His eyes find mine, and for a heartbeat, I expect him to raise his weapon. Instead, he lifts a trembling hand. "You can't go back," he says, voice hushed against the river's thunderous flow. "They'll kill you for what you carry." I gape, chest heaving. "Then join me," I say. "Tell the world." My voice cracks. He shakes his head. "I'm too deep. They'd execute me too." He steps forward, then hesitates. "But I can help you get across." I blink, uncertain whether to trust him or shoot him on the spot. Memories of his stoic calm at the graveyard of foxholes flash through my mind. His sacrifice in speaking the truth to me. If he turns me in now, it's over. If he helps, I might live to tell. I nod once. Sharply, "Show me the way." We slip through the reeds toward the boatman's hidden mooring, an old sampan lashed beneath a sinking barge. He emerges from shadow, lantern in hand, eyes flicking between Sanders and me. No questions, no hesitation. He pushes the boat out, and we climb aboard. Water lapping at the gunwales. As the boat swings into the current, I press the notebook against my chest. The river carries us into darkness, bobbing over submerged logs, past mangrove roots that scrape like fingernails. Gunfire echoes on the far bank. Bravo Company's last desperate effort, but we are beyond their reach now. The boatman polishes the throttle and the engine growls to life. Smoke and mist swirl around us, muffling the world into a grey dream. Sanders sits opposite me, head bowed. I watch his shoulders rise and fall with each breath. We are ghosts, carried on a river of secrets. I feel the dam of fear break inside me. Tears run down my cheeks, cold and relentless. "Thank you," I whisper, voice raw. He doesn't reply. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and extracts the faded photograph of Hawk and the unknown officer. He smooths the mud-smudged faces with a fingertip. "For him," he murmurs. "For all of them." I take the photo, tuck it beside the notebook. The river's current surges, and in that moment I know there is no turning back. I will not return to duty. I will not be silenced. I will carry this truth across oceans and into the halls of power. I will shout their names until they echo in every capital corridor and every newsroom. I will show the world what they tried to bury. Ahead, the river widens, opening into a broader channel, lined with mangrove shadows. The first hint of dawn stains the horizon, pale gold bleeding into steel blue sky. I swallow hard, steel settling in my chest. I lift my chin, press my shoulders back, and let the river carry me toward a new war, one fought on paper, in courtrooms, and in public conscience. This is my irrevocable choice. I have crossed the line from soldier to witness, from obeying orders to defying them. Behind me lie death, betrayal, and the hungry ghosts of the forgotten. Ahead lies truth, hard, unyielding, and free. And as the engine's hum carries us forward, I clutch the notebook, the photograph, the dog tags, and I vow they will not be forgotten. And with that vow burning brighter than any flare in the night, I vanish into the dawn's uncertain light. Dawn crept in gently as the old boat cut the river like a scar. With the notebook pressed to my chest, I knew the mission had changed. It was no longer war. It was testimony. Sanders, beside me, said nothing. He didn't need to. When I stepped into Hugh, with the first light brushing the concrete, I handed over the notebook with the names, the evidence, the lies. The consular officer looked at me in silence, and in that gaze, there was more than surprise. There was guilt behind me. The river carried away the echoes of the jungle. Ahead, a different war was beginning. But now, the ghosts had a voice, and I would be the eternal echo of that truth.